Hello, this is Dr. Dave Gatros. We're working on a practice a class project here. We're going to call it Box, and let me introduce it to you. This is the assignment write-up, and it's just a practice doing a class. And what I want you to do is I want you to do it alongside of me just exactly as I do it. Just type it in. It's a good practice assignment. I'll put this assignment right up out there for you so you can look at it. Basically, it is an assignment that draws ASCII character boxes, and it's a class that manages those boxes. Um, Here is the write-up itself. We're going to do it a piece at a time. It involves 3 files, 4 actually if we include the makefile. The main routine, which is the driver, the box.h, which is the header file, the box.cpp, which is the implementation of the class, and then the makefile, which is a Unix make utility file that allows us to build the executable very, very easily. I'm going to write it a piece at a time, and as I go along, I'm going to explain what I'm doing as we're typing the program in and try to give you an idea of why the syntax is in that specific, why the syntax is as it is. Well, the very first thing I do is I have the makefile there already. The very first thing I do is I'm going to create the box header file. And this is, tells the class the things that are comprised of the class itself. Let me just go ahead and get started. Box.h, I'm using Pico. You can use any editor you want. Make sure you have a computer science account. Now, always when I'm defining a class, I use compiler directives that allows us to not have duplicates. So if indef means if not defined. So I'm going to give it a name, box underscore h. So if box underscore h is not defined, then define it. Now what this does is if there's a copy of this class out there already, it won't create another one. Otherwise it will. Indef. So there's our class, or there's our definition. Now we're going to start with the class itself. Okay. Get my cheat sheet out here. I actually have it over here. There we go. Okay. So to define a class, you first start off with the reserved word class. Okay. Now you're going to give it a name. The name of the class is almost always capitalized, box. So it's B-O-X with a capital B. Left curly bracket, and now the things inside the curly brackets are going to be the class definition. So you notice I have a begin and end curly bracket, and it's ended by a semicolon. So all of our class definitions go in here. Each class has 2 parts, or in this initial stage, 2 parts. There's actually, you can have more. We have a public, and we have a private. Now, the person who's using this class can generally see the private parts as well as the public parts, but they don't have direct access to them. In our public access, let me indent these just a little bit. There we go. In our public, we have 3 things that we're going to keep track of for a box, the 3 data values for each box itself. We have the border, we have the fill, and we have the size. Okay. Just line things up there. So those are 3 data characteristics. Again, the person using the class knows they exist and can see them, but they don't have direct access to them. Now what we're going to do is, generally speaking, when we write a class, the very first thing we do is we write the gets and sets. This allows us to get a copy of the data value, what it is, and it also allows us to set it. We're going to modify these a little bit later, but let me show you how they work. So I'm going to do each one. I'm going to do the gets first. So I'll say get border. Okay. and it's going to return a character. Okay. Now I'm going to do the get fill, and it's going to return a character, and I'm going to do the get size, and it will return an integer. Now I'm going to do the sets. Void, okay, set border. I'm going to pass in a character, we'll call it B, to set the border at. Void set fill, constant character F, and then void set size, constant int. Yes, and let me go up and check that spelling. Okay, so this is all we're going to write right now in our box.h. Let's save this. Okay. Now, if you're paranoid, you want to make sure if you've made any syntax mistake, we can do a pre-compile. T++-C means compile only. Okay, we're going to use the C++11 standard. Okay, and box.h. Okay. Come on, got to spell it right. Okay, and we've got two errors right there. We got to check our compiler directives. We'll go back in and fix it. Save it. And the syntax looks okay. Well, that's all right. Now then, let's go in and create the the C++ implementation of the box. That's done by saying pico box.cpyp. Okay. Now, what we're going to do here is we know we're going to use some IO stream, so we'll put that in there. We also need the box itself, the header file. And we'll go ahead and just default namespace standard, so we don't have to put std:::, in front of everything. And now what we're going to do is each one of those methods that we wrote, we're going to write the implementation of it. Okay. I'm going to bring up another window so we can see them side by side. If I type my username in right. Okay. There we go. Okay. So we'll set this over to the side so we can kind of look at it. Let me make it a little bit larger. There we go. So let's write get border first. All right. So we say character. Now, you're going to see me with box : in front of it. And I'll explain that. What these methods needs to do is they need access to the private data items. In order to give them permissions, we have to say that this method is part of the box class, and we do that by putting box : in front of the method name, and that gives it permission to access those private data items. So that's get border. Let's do get fill. Get box : get fill. Okay. Return fill. We have int box : size. Return size. We have void set box colon set border, where we're passing in a constant character b. Now we're going to come back and modify this later. Right now I'm just going to say border is equal to b. Later on what we're going to do is we're going to write some code that validates that character to make sure it's within a certain range. For right now we're just going to assign it there. Void box colon set fill, and I just know a mistake I made. Can you see it? Look for it. Okay, it's in the previous method. I'm going to do this. Fill is equal to f. Okay, have you found it yet? No? All right, well here it is. It's supposed to be a lowercase b. And you look over here, you'll see it's a lowercase b. Set border, set fill, set size. All right, now we're going to do set size. Void box colon set size, constant int s, size equal to s, and then there we go. Save that. Now we're going to go through and we're going to check that code to see if it's syntactically okay, and it looks okay too. So here's what we've got so far. We've got our box.cpp and our box.h files. The other files are intermediate files except the make file. So now we want to create our driver program. We'll call it main. Okay, pico main.cpp. Okay, again we're going to include iostream. We're also going to include our box.h. That's our header file. And we're going to say using namespace standard main void return 0. We'll save this right now just to get us. Now if we want to create, or we want to use our box, we'll say I'm going to declare an object of type box. I'm going to call it mybox1. Okay, and we will say mybox1. We're going to use the method setBorder, and we're going to pass in a pound sign. Okay, and we're going to say mybox1 setFill. We're going to pass in a asterisk, and we're going to say mybox1, and we're going to call the set size, and we'll say size 5. Now we're going to make sure all this works. Okay, cout mybox1 get border, no, cout mybox1 get fill. There we go. Okay. Now then, here's where we use the make file. Let me show you the make file. And I have a lecture on that, and you should be familiar with it. You should be in Unix, or you should have had a Unix class already. Here's the make file for it. The only note that I'll make here on the make file, and I will explain it someday to you, is that in front of this G++ and these RM sites, there's a tab character, which tells the make utility that this is a shell script. So to run this, all I have to do is say make. All right, we have an error. There should be an indel right there. We'll go back into our main. Right there it is. save this and then say clear, make. Oh, okay, there, good. Now let's run our executable main. So it's a #, asterisk, and 5. And if we go back and look at our main routine, we set it to #, asterisk, and 5, and it works exactly like that. So what I want you to do is I want you to work on your box class, and I want you to get it to the point of making this look exactly like this. Let me put your make file up there for you again. Oops. There we go. I'll leave that up there again in front of the G++. Let me go ahead and edit it right here. Right in front of these. You'll notice if I do a backspace, it deletes it. I put a tab character in front of it. There has to be a tab character in front of everything that has G++ in it, and all of these removes. Okay, very good. Well, on to part 2.